Someone asked the Divine Mother, how do I know when it's my mind speaking or my heart speaking? And without a moment's hesitation, she answered, what comes first? Over these last days, it's been suggested that we have, or indeed that we are, a receptacle, a cauldron, a mandala that contains not only all of our own personal psychic symbols, archetypes and characters, but all of the sacred symbols, archetypes and characters of all the ages. One of the most significant symbols in our pantheon is books and what they represent to us psychically. So let's see what this story evokes for us as we put the characters and the symbols and archetypes together. It's the story of a learned man who had in his possession a scroll that contained ancient wisdom. Now this learned man and his wife had an only son who they adored. But when it came for the time to go to the school, his father took him, taking with him the scroll that he had in his possession. And when he came to the schoolmaster, he said to the schoolmaster, I bring this scroll of ancient learning so that it can be imparted to my son. But the schoolmaster said, oh no, here in this scroll we have to learn the ABCs, we have to learn the arithmetics, we have to learn the tenets and the ways and the rules of life before we delve into any kind of ancient wisdom of the kind that you have. So the father said to the schoolmaster, in that case, I will teach my son myself. And so he took his son back to their home, where, taking the scroll, he placed a teaspoon of honey on its tip, and he had his son lick the end of the scroll. And his father said to him, this is the taste of learning the ancient wisdom. And from that time on, his father imparted to him that which was contained in this scroll. And one day the son was out in the garden studying the scroll, when suddenly an invading army of soldiers came along and captured him, taking him with them back to their own place. Now when their son did not come home, the man and his wife were bereft, but they could do nothing. Their son was taken away with a number of other young beings to be enslaved in that distant place. Now the boy was incarcerated deep down in the dungeons of this place until it was time for them to be allocated tasks to be given. But it so happened that the king of that place could find no rest, beset with the worries of being invaded, taking care of his people, or his people uprising. He tossed and turned at night, and of course when the king could not sleep, nobody else was allowed to sleep. So all his minions and his advisors tried to find a way to placate the king. They bought dancing girls, they bought musicians, they gave him potions of all kinds, but none of them allowed the king to find any rest and repose. When suddenly one of his advisors remembered, "Your Majesty, in your coffers there are a number of artifacts. Let me see if I can find one that would be of assistance to you." And as it happened, when he went to these coffers, the first thing on top of the pile was the scroll that had been taken from our young man. So this was taken back to the king's chamber, but when it was unrolled, it was found that nobody knew the language that was contained in it. But it again so happened that one of those amongst those in attendance had been one who had taken the scroll from the boy, and so he had the boy brought up from his dungeon and brought into the presence of the king. So he was asked, "Is this your scroll?" And with tears in his eyes, the boy replied that it was. So the king demanded, "Read it to me." So the boy proceeded to read out the wisdom contained in it. And as he did, with each sentence, the king found himself more and more at peace, the wisdom it contained falling on him like the nectar of spring rain, until he fell into a deep and peaceful sleep. But when he awoke in the morning, there was the young boy still sitting there with the scroll in his hand. So the king asked the boy, "Who are you?" And of course the young boy related that he was the son, the only son of his parents, and he had been taken from his home place and brought here, but he longed to return to his parents. Of course, the king said, "So it will be." And so the young boy was freed and taken back to the great rejoicing and welcoming of his loving parents. Books. This scroll, this symbol, when we dive deep into our cauldron, our mandala, what is its meaning for us? Dipping into the ancient wisdom of the meaning of symbols. Recognizing that every one of the characters, the king, the boy, the parents, the honey, the scroll, all have representations for us of aspects of our personal psyche as well as the universal psyche. What's the meaning of this story for you? And the symbol of the scroll and its ancient wisdom.
Knowledge is power.
Yes.
It was powerful in getting the boy back to his parents. It was powerful for enlightening the king. And it resulted in a family's reunion.
I found often I have a number of books that have been written in an inspired state, and I can often go to those books and find exactly what I need to hear at the time. If I have a question in my mind or something comes up, I pick just randomly a book. So I think there is a wisdom there that's beyond the books really, that we're tapping into through the medium of the books.
Absolutely.
And they were often just normal people,
Yes.
humans, that in those books. So I don't know.
How many times have we been into a bookstore and not knowing what it is that we're looking for, but after browsing the shelves find ourselves choosing a book from its shelf?
Yes, many times actually.